chaos today. Is it because it's New Year's Eve? We just gotta get all the chaos out right now. What is going on? Alright. Can I play a song for you guys before we start? Actually, that might not be a good idea. I had no warm up. Nothing. Just raw diggity morning voice. On the bright side, I do have Liangchen. So that's really cool. Liangcha, baby. I'm gonna have to bleach my hair again. My roots are getting really dark. Either bleach or haircut. I'm not sure. Maybe you guys can vote on it. Sorry. Good morning, Xiao Xiao. Zao Zao, Xiao Xiao. Let's bring this a little closer. That's good. There we go. Alright, let's lower this music. Well, it's still audible in the OBS, so I guess I could turn it off, or I could just reduce it to nothing. Yes, I like that idea more. Put my music on. Can you guys hear my music? I imagine you can't hear it, right? No? Yes? Maybe? Zao, zao, zao. I suppose maybe you can, maybe you can't. Who knows? All right, let's put this one over there. And this screen, you know, sometimes I feel like I need multiple displays, but then other times I'm just like, do I actually need multiple displays? Probably not. Oh, that was really cool, but in the wrong screen. There we go. Beautiful. I like this. Maybe I don't need multiple displays after all. Oh, that's cool, Xiao Xiao. I don't stream on the weekends usually. Okay, I see what's going on. I think my connection was bad because I was connected to the first floor Wi-Fi. Oof. All right, let's hop to it. I'm making an assumption here. I'm assuming you guys cannot hear my music, right? In which case, it's fine. But if you could, it's actually quite pleasant. It's not bad at all. I'd recommend it. All right, how we do these? There we go. All right, let me put it down so I can think. I need to think during my stream. All right. Good morning, everybody. Zhao shang hao. Buenos dias. Ohayo gozaimashita. So, welcome back, folks. I'm happy to announce that today is the last day of 2024. And that means that we are one step closer to normacy, if that makes sense. We're 1 year closer to normacy, more or less. Of course, I'm sure that 2025 is going to have a lot of its own special challenges for us, but hopefully it is nowhere near as horrible and as dramatic as 2020. So let's fingers crossed, right? Because it's taken a long time to recover. Mm. That's good. Thank you, Xiao Xiao. Thank you for the feedback. I just wanted to make sure because I like it that folks can hear my music, but not too loudly. All right. Anyway, so yeah, today is we're gonna have New Year's Eve tonight, right? Tomorrow's New Year's Day. I think most of you should be off tomorrow. In reality, everyone should be off tomorrow. I think it's a national holiday, if I'm not mistaken. If you aren't off tomorrow, I hope you are getting, I don't know, 200% pay or 300% pay or something like that, just to make things fair. Anyway, I haven't actually organized anything or planned anything for this New Year's Eve. So maybe just gonna gather some friends, have some good food, have some mulled wine, and Happy New Year. There you go. Yeah. A few years ago, well, maybe in like the 20 teens, we used to have a party, a really big party every New Year. But I think you already know, after COVID, everything changed. After 2020, absolutely everything changed. And things are just much more mellow, much more calm. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it is what it is. I saw a video. I don't know if it was on WeChat. You know what? I'm sure it was from YouTube and somebody just put it on WeChat. Nothing is ever original from WeChat other than like traffic videos. Anyway, so I saw one video of a comedian that he was saying, it's a little bit dark, okay? But hey, it is what it is. He was saying like, oh yeah, so it's 2024 and things are finally back to normal, right? And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, everything's finally back to normal, especially after lockdowns and the pandemic and all that stuff. So everything's starting to feel like, we got everything back, we can do gatherings and go out and it just feels normal. And like, we got everything back to normal. And then someone in the audience, they were like, no, it doesn't. And then then the comedian says, well, I mean, what are we missing? Like, I feel like we got everything back, right? And the lady in the audience, she said, family. Bro, I started laughing so hard, it was inappropriate. It was so inappropriate. But you can see in the video, a lot of people were laughing. It was like, that's messed up, but it's true. And then the comedian says, oh, I forgot. Oh yeah, that was a big part of the pandemic, huh? Oh, yes, that was a very big part that you overlooked. A lot of people didn't get their family members back, but life goes on for most of us, thankfully, I guess. So RIP to those folks, and let's hope we can carry on better now that it's going to be 5 years. It's literally going to be 5 years, folks. All right. So yesterday we started on the topic of entitlement. And on that topic, we got into the whole Christmas tree and celebrating traditions and things like that. And you guys know my position on this. We already covered that and we talked about it a bit. We had at least one or two people in the audience, in our chat, that of course disagree with my position, which is okay. I think that's totally fine. As long as we're having a civil discourse, I don't really mind. So I do want to sort of lay out the table, do some housekeeping, just as a friendly reminder, ladies and gentlemen. In this live stream, we are all about personal development, business, personal growth, right? So with that, sometimes you're going to have disagreements, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing with somebody. as long as we're looking at it as a way to actually learn something new, whether or not your position is the quote unquote correct one, is always an opportunity to learn something new as far as I'm concerned. Now, where we draw the line here in this live stream specifically is when we start making a lot of irrelevant political commentary or personal attacks. Because why? For what purpose do we have to make political or racially driven commentary on a topic that is neither political nor racially driven? That isn't part of the conversation. And when people continuously spam the chat with the same irrelevant comments, what ends up happening is you get blocked. That's what's going to end up happening. So yesterday I had to block somebody for that spam. To be honest with you, that person had it coming. It's been so long where they keep doing this. And I don't have the power or any more patience to try to make them reasonable about their comment spam. So that's enough. It's been like almost a year. So if they haven't learned yet, they're not going to learn. And it's not my responsibility to teach that. So it's just common courtesy. Be respectful of others. Be respectful of the space that we are sharing, ladies and gentlemen. The second thing, whenever there is commentary through disagreement that results in personal attacks, that is also a guaranteed way to get blocked out. For sure. And I would say for good reason. Feel free to disagree with me. But let's say, for example, hypothetically, I think that homeschooling is a great idea. And you think that traditional schooling is much better than homeschooling, and that homeschooling is not a good idea. That's fine. But if you start attacking me or someone else and calling them insults or names or, insulting their intelligence, whatever it is that you want to say in order to try to get your point across, supposedly, number one, that's not acceptable here. Number two, it doesn't actually support your point. When you drive yourself into making personal attacks on someone based on their race, based on how they look, based on their body shape, based on some sort of personal detail, you've already lost the battle, right? And the thing is that no one was having a battle to begin with, at least not here. So if you start a battle, I will help you stop it just by blocking you. Just simple as that, we don't have time to waste on those kind of things. But yeah, that's all it is. Whenever we have a topic of discussion, attack the topic, attack the talking points of that topic, attack my perspective on that topic and why maybe my ideas are incorrect or biased or even misinformed. That's absolutely fine. Back it up, prove it. That's absolutely fine. But personal attacks are not acceptable. They have never been acceptable, and they will never be acceptable. Whether you're a regular audience member or you're a VIP member, or if you've dropped a lot of gifts, quite frankly, and please excuse my French, cover your ears if you're sensitive, I don't give a flying fuck because I make more than enough money to not give a shit about the gifts that are being dropped. That's why I have the luxury and the time to even do the live stream. It's because I can afford it. So that said, be very mindful and respectful of those around us. That's all there is to it. We're sharing a space, we're having a conversation, and we're trying to learn from one another. Let's keep it that way. It's always been that way. And with that said, let's go. Let's continue. Now, another thing I want to add for today. Yesterday, the guy, his name was Lucas. I was trying to invite him to a call, but we know the platform does a really crappy job at that, especially if you're not in China. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to let you guys know I will be taking calls, right? But, caveat, but I'm only taking calls of people I invite to call. Okay? So if I see that you're making really good comments, with good information, whether or not you agree with me, I don't care. As long as you're making good comments that make sense, that have some logic behind it. Even if I disagree with it, I don't care. I will definitely invite you to call. Or you can even ask and I will tell you, okay, we can take a call from you or not. But I'm not going to be picking up random calls just because people press the call button. That's not going to happen. The other thing is, because this is a multi-platform stream, if you are not able to call me on WeChat, that's okay. I can get you on another platform. So as long as you have access to other platforms to call, I'm streaming on different platforms as we speak right now. You can call me on one of those and we can have a brief discussion or discourse on the topic. We don't just need to use WeChat. So, like I said, I will be streaming on WeChat, on YouTube, and I'm also sharing on Discord as well. I found Discord to be very, very useful. Because usually I just go into the rooms and people just kind of join the conversation in the chat there, which is really cool. Now, yeah, we're not gonna allow any platform to monopolize communication. They can eat one. I don't care. Anyway, let's carry on. We're going to do a quick review of the talking points of entitlement. So if you have any questions or comments you want to share right now, feel free to do so in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. So what is entitlement, right? The definition, entitlement, the belief that one inherently deserves a certain privilege or privileges or special treatment, regardless of effort or circumstances. So it's like a birthright. Entitlement is like a person who has some sort of birthright. Because they exist, they have a right to a thing. So this is what a sense of entitlement more or less is. I was giving the example yesterday, like, oh, if you are the son or the daughter of a millionaire or some multi-billionaire, whatever, then you may feel entitled to their money because you are their child. But the reality is that it is their money and they can choose to do with it whatever they please. So that sense of entitlement goes down the toilet. Yes. We briefly touched on like the pros of entitlement, which is so weird to say, the pros of entitlement. And so one of those pros would be confidence and assertiveness. We talked a bit about that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of us who would be either very skilled or very talented at something, but we lack the self-confidence to even really try or put ourselves out there. On the other hand, you have some people who they do have a sort of sense of self-entitlement that says, I have the right to be heard, or I have the right to be on the stage and to do a thing. And it gives them enough drive or motivation to try something difficult or try something scary. Whether that is applying for one of the most prestigious schools in the country or going on stage and singing or whatever it is. But in this sort of sense, entitlement can be helpful in terms of keeping you a little bit out of that headspace of that you're not good enough, if that makes sense. Yeah, so this is interesting. So Xiao Xiao says, what's the difference between entitlement and a right? So here's the thing. When it comes to rights are a thing that are, let me put it like this. Rights are usually decided upon by government. They're decided upon by officials, right? Government officials will draft up some papers and try to address a certain problem or a certain issue, depending on the circumstances and what country you live in. Now, let's say, for example, if tomorrow, which is January 1st, tomorrow's January 1st, if this is considered a national holiday, then you have the right to have the day off. And if you do not have the day off, then you have the right to be paid or to charge 300%, I believe, days pay for working on that national holiday. Substituting the day of the holiday for tomorrow does not count, ladies and gentlemen, if it is a national holiday. A nationally recognized holiday, you don't just switch the days for those particular ones. You, based on whatever the government calendar is, right? You're supposed to be paid 200, 300%. In the US, they would call it time and a half, which is doggy water. I wouldn't work for time and a half on a holiday. But unfortunately, sometimes you can't choose. But that is a right. The right is usually something that is drafted and introduced by government. Now, when we're talking about entitlement, there's nothing that has been drafted or put into law by your government or your country. When you're talking about entitlement, you're talking about a feeling of something because of who you are, supposedly, what you were born as. So one of the things that I think traditionally give people a sense of entitlement, like I mentioned yesterday, is very gender-based situation. So maybe sometimes a man can say, because I am a man, I am entitled to be served, kind of thing. Some people are like that. I'm not like that. I'm just giving an example, right? Some men feel that, if they have a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, she needs to rub his feet and give him a back massage every day and prepare dinner. And no, it doesn't matter if she works too. Like, she needs to basically be his slave and also work. And some guys feel like that just because they are men, right? Because they were born as men, they are entitled to have a woman who's going to serve. On the other hand, then you have women that because they are women, they believe that they are entitled to have their dates paid for them, or they are entitled to have a man pay for their bills or expenses and XYZ. Like I said, this is not my thought process, but this is the reality of how some people think. And this is an example of entitlement. So something interesting, to give you another good example, in the US, if you commit a crime or you are charged or suspected of committing a crime, and let's say you are poor, you have the right to an attorney. Whether or not you can afford one can be provided for you. So this means if you have money or you don't have money is not really relevant. You will still get an attorney or a public defender to defend you in court. So just putting that out there. You cannot be tried without having a lawyer or someone to speak in your behalf or in your defense in court. So this is a right. Oh, I can't believe you guys are talking about songs right now. Yeah, I definitely can. Maybe after 9 o'clock, because from the hours of 8 a.m. to 9, we're going to be focused on the topic. But after those hours or before those hours, yeah, I can sing a song for you. I'll sing ABCs or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. All right, let's continue. So Xiao Xiao, hopefully that answered your question about the difference between entitlement versus a right. I'm happy Lydia got the joke. That's really sweet. All right, now let's continue. Let's carry on. We're going to be talking about the cons of entitlement. I have to say something. I got to tell you guys, right now I'm drinking liang cha, and this is probably the best my voice has felt speaking nonstop, because liang cha is amazing. But I'm also afraid that I can't drink it every day during a live stream, because then my body and my throat will probably get used to it, and then it just becomes the dependency issue. But oh my God, it's great. I love it. So for those on YouTube, I know you can't see what's in here, but it's tea, and it's called liang cha. It's super, super good Chinese tea. I don't actually know what it's made out of. I don't understand what it does, but it's actually super, super good. I think it's delicious, and it makes your body feel really warm, really smooth. It doesn't feel dry. A lot of the time when I drink tea, other tea, for some reason, it just makes me feel dry, drier than I was before, even though I'm hydrating supposedly with tea, Maybe it has something to do with the caffeine. I don't know. But sometimes I feel the same about water. But this tea almost feels a little bit like a lubricant. I'm not sure what it is, but it's amazing. It's great. You are a sweetheart. Thank you so much. Drink for what? No, I mean, I think you say liang cha, right? It's called liang cha. Chinese tea. A certain type of Chinese tea. All right, let's see here. So we're going into cons of entitlement. I think I've addressed a little bit of that, but let's go in there. Let's go in there. So first, what is a con, right? A con is going to be something that is negative or something that we see as a downside, not so positive, right? So cons of entitlement: complacency. Believing you deserve things without putting in the work can create a sense of entitlement that leads to laziness. So complacency, I want to compare complacency to comfort. I think that makes the most sense. At least it does to me. When you sort of get too comfortable in where you are, what you are doing in your space, you are not continuously challenging yourself. In this sort of situation, this sort of complacent. Oh, no. Did I disable your comments? Hold on a second. 1 second, guys. I think I accidentally disabled someone's comments or everyone's comments. What happened? How did I do that? Oh no. I was trying to put up a YS's comment and then it said comments disabled. Uh-oh. Okay. So I need to fix this really quick. If you can hear me, just press 1 so I can see if the comment shows up. Ah, man. I hate the phone app. It's so bulky. It's so bad. All right, I can see your comments. So listen, if you are here within the last 30 seconds, one of you is muted. One of you has had your comments disabled and I don't know who it is. So I apologize ahead of time. Enable comments. Let me check. Oh man, that's awful. I accidentally muted somebody and I don't know who it is. Look, if I don't see your comments, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. Hit the call button if you commented a lot and I don't see it, and then I'll know who it is. Or just say to somebody else, hey, I think I'm muted. So they can tell me. What? No, it's none of you guys. All right, whatever. Let's continue. I see Xiao Xiao. Okay. Let me see. What is that? I can read a little bit of it. Let me see. It's 花什么红. Hua. I don't know the second character. It's too complicated. It's like flower something red tea? Something like that. All right. So yes, the word is complacency. And what I would compare complacency to is going to be being overly comfortable. 花竹红. Interesting. 花竹红. Let me write that down. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to try that. Try 花竹红 tea for throat. Okay. I might have that actually. I might have some downstairs already. Yeah. So complacency, like I said, when you feel overly comfortable with your situation. If you want to make sure you're not getting complacent, one of the best ways to do that is, of course, continuously challenge yourself. Always learn. I'm pretty sure the grammar for this is wrong, but I like to say always be learning. Always be learning. Yes, if you're always in a state in which you are gathering new information, you are learning new things, whether it is professionally or just practically or as a hobby, then your mind can stay sharp, if that makes sense. Unlike folks who pretend it. um, Doing the same thing over and over, maybe you'll feel comfortable, but unfortunately, that also can sort of, I want to say, degrade your mental state because you are not exercising your gray matter, if that makes sense. You're not exercising your memory receptors. You're not challenging your brain to actually work, if that makes sense. So it's very helpful to continuously learn something. Now, let's assume that you're just not really into trying to learn a new discipline or skill or whatever. It could be a language. It could be writing a book or reading books. It could be fiction. It could be nonfiction. There's so many ways to do it. But honestly speaking, the world has an infinite number of things that we can learn. So there's no reason why we can't find at least one thing that we find interesting or engaging and continuously learn from it, so that at least our brains stay flexible, if that makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. I don't care if you're just playing video games, but if you're playing different video games and trying different styles, different gears, different weapons, whatever, that's good enough. At least keep your gray matter stretchy. Don't become complacent. Yo, my pleasure. Thank you for the thanks. How about that, man? And thank you to the person who dropped that gift, Dr. Sun. 谢谢. Thank you for joining the fan club. And thank you for the hearts. All right, let's carry on. So yes, complacency is kind of a show of like laziness and entitlement in many ways. I believe that we have some phases, right? There are some times, let me put it like this. The way that my life works or my schedule works is a little bit weird in that I have to learn a lot of information and a lot of knowledge in a very short amount of time because part of my work has to do with learning the details of different industries at a moment's notice almost, right? I have to like study for like a couple weeks or a week. Maybe it's just a few days. Really, really quickly, as much information as possible so that I can apply it in the short term. And sometimes it's really exhausting. I'm not going to lie to you. It's really exhausting. So I do understand like when we have like those cool down periods, and those cool down periods are very, very necessary. For me, like after I do like a big project or work on a large consultancy or something like this, or it could be a difficult project. It doesn't really matter if it's big or difficult. It ends up being the same. I usually like to take like a week to do nothing. Absolutely nothing once I'm done. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do anything right now. I just want to relax and sleep and chill. And then after that, I get back into it and okay, make sure I do exercise, make sure I'm learning again, make sure I'm reading books, back to normal, but not as intensely as I would from before, if that makes sense. Not that intensely. Because if you do it too intensely, then obviously it's no good. So we got to keep it chill. We got to keep it real, real chill. All right. Oh man, I hope you were here for the beginning of my speech because it was very, very important. But anyway, there's a replay. I suggest you guys watch that replay if you missed the beginning of it so you understand the house rules, right? We have to do our housekeeping and we're not making any exceptions on that. It's been too long making exceptions. All right, moving on. Yes, Lydia, thank you for that comment. Yes. So what we got to do is either we find a hobby that is continuously changing or evolving, something that can keep you fresh or sharp, or language learning, or reading different books. Fiction or nonfiction doesn't really matter, but anything like this is going to help you stay as sharp as possible inside of your own head. You know, one of the things that I realized is a lot of people that I've met that they learn a second language, whether it is English or Spanish or Chinese or whatever, their fluency or the way that they speak, not necessarily their accent, right? We're not accent in this situation, but the way that they articulate themselves and their fluency in the language changes a lot depending on how often they read. If they can read in that language, it usually makes a really big difference, because we do understand that the structure for reading a language is often very different from the way that we speak it. That's true, right? However, even with those changes, it still helps you to subconsciously speak better, whatever language it is you're learning. So if you're learning a language yourself, you should take some time, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. As long as you do it every day for just a few minutes, take some time to read some books, something that is interesting or engaging to you. For me, I personally focus on nonfiction. I like to focus things that have a lot of practical knowledge that I can apply to my personal life or my business life, my relationships and networks, right? But if that's not really for you, if you feel that that is boring, hey, you can always just pick up a Harry Potter book or something. Let's see. So Xiao Xiao says, yeah, you need to absorb as much as you can so you can give more proper advices in a short time. That's difficult. Oh, well, you know what? That's also part of it. That's also part of it. Because I do actually have to do some homework before the live stream, usually the day before, if I have enough time. If not, I'll do it like just a couple hours before and focus a bit about the talking points of the topic and give some practical advice. One of the things I do focus on, I don't know if this is a secret or not, whatever. I feel like it's like a secret. But one of the things that I focus on with the live streams that I do, the podcast that I do, is giving practical advice for whatever topic I'm covering. So let's say, for example, we are talking about how to network, right? How to make friends or meet new people professionally or personally, right? Within that topic, I can talk about networking for 5 hours, but it really doesn't matter if you don't learn any practical skills or tips from it. So I always make sure to include in the latter end of the stream practical tips. You can do this to achieve that. Try doing this to get this. So the practical tips are always the best, in my opinion, but you do need to have a sort of background, if that makes sense, to reinforce those tips. You can't just tell somebody, this is what you need to do, now do it, but they don't know why they're doing it. So that's why we do have to learn a little bit of background for whatever practical tips we're trying to implement. It has to sort of make conscious sense as opposed to logical sense. Right. Now, let's see. We went through complacency. Now, the inability to adapt. Oof. I think I touched on this a little bit yesterday. Inability to adapt. Entitled people can get defensive when things don't go their way, refusing to learn from failure or adjust their approach. This is one of those things that I like to use a lot, especially during a job interview when I'm interviewing candidates. I would ask them about their most difficult times in their previous jobs or in their previous positions. What was the most challenging experience you had? How did you deal with it? Would you want to deal with that sort of problem again? What would you do differently if it happened to you today? I like to ask people these sort of questions during like a job interview because I want to see not only if they can solve a problem on their own, but I want to see if if they actually learn from their mistakes, if they actually learn from challenges. Because the problem with whether you're talking about students or staff or otherwise, I would say the biggest problem we have is that when you have people who are not willing to learn from failure or learn from their challenges, then they're not going to grow. If they look at a challenge as something that they just don't want to deal with and it's just inconvenient, then that is not something that you want. That is not someone you would want on your team, in my opinion. Right? So that's why I say at the end of every live stream, I say, look at every challenge as a learning experience. That's like my go-to quote. And this is why I say that, because when you look at a challenge as a learning experience, you will become a better person. You are going to develop. But if you look at it at a challenge as an inconvenience or as a bother, then it sort of goes to waste. You know what I mean? Anywho. So, entitled people can get defensive when things don't go their way, refusing to learn from failure or adjust their approach. Man, I definitely say it's good to be persistent and to try again, but you should always adjust what you do. Don't just do the exact same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. You need to try different things. I think, you know what's a very good teacher for this? Haha. A very good teacher for this skill is our video games, right? Especially like RPGs. Very, very good for teaching this skill because you'll have different challenges, like different bosses that you have to fight, right? And now if you jump in and you fight that boss a certain way, like you're just gonna chop at him, right? And you die and you die and you die again and again, then you need to change your approach. You're like, okay, obviously just jumping in there and slashing at the boss is not working. What else can I do? So then you try something else. Let me try using shields. Let me try using spells. Let me try using a different weapon. Or maybe I should try to attack after he does a certain move, whatever. But the point is, when you play video games, for example, you are challenged in different ways so that you can adjust what you do, change your fighting style, whatever it may be, to deal with that situation and to beat that boss. So I think video games are a really, really good teacher for this particular skill, for learning from your failures and adjusting for success. It's wonderful. I know I've learned a lot doing this, for sure. All right, let's see. Toxic relationships. I feel we touched on this yesterday a little bit, but let's have at it. Expecting too much from others without understanding their perspective can lead to friction in personal and professional relationships. Yes, I can definitely agree with this. So, it could be because of the way you were raised. It could be because of your family. It could be because of your experiences, your past relationships. There could be so many reasons. But the point is, we oftentimes have, I want to say, unrealistic expectations of what our partners should be doing in a relationship. And sometimes those unrealistic expectations, they're really ingrained within us because they usually start from childhood. And it ends up becoming a situation where instead of evolving with the times and understanding that circumstances change and things are different, we sort of become complacent and feel like, well, I'm not going to budge. This is what I learned, and this is how things are. As far as I care, or as far as I know, I don't need to change it. But again, this is what happens with a complacent brain, where you don't actually continuously learn from failure or from challenges, or even challenge yourself to learn more. Try not to let your traditional self get in the way of your learning. That's the first thing I would say. Of course, there are definitely lines that I would draw in this sort of situation where it's like, yeah, we don't need to accept someone abusing or mistreating us, right? No way. It reminds me of the comment from that one person on YouTube where they were saying like, they were being abused by their husband, unfortunately. And it's like, to me, that's not a challenge. That's not a challenge. That's not something for you to necessarily like learn from. You need to get out of that relationship as soon as possible, immediately, like right now. So yes, there's definitely lines where we can draw. But on the other hand, we also need to understand that on more practical sense, yeah, we have unrealistic expectations. So like I was giving the example before about men who are expecting women to do traditional things to take care of them, and women who are expecting traditional things like to be paid for all the time. It's like, yes, but are the circumstances today the same as the circumstances in which those sort of roles or traditions were established in? This is very important. If we cannot establish if the conditions are the same, then no, we cannot have the same expectations. Your expectations need to evolve with the times. So let's use children as an example, right? Because when you have kids, whether they are your kids or they are your students, whatever it is, when you have kids, we also need to keep expectations realistic, right? When you are talking to a 5-year-old and you're explaining to a 5-year-old how to deal with a certain math problem or how to do a certain science experiment, our expectations should be very different from when we're talking to a 15-year-old, right? That 10-year difference is really, really huge in terms of the development of the child. But even when we're talking about adults, the same can be true, right? The things that applied and made sense 50 years ago or in your upbringing 20 years ago may not necessarily be true today. So it is important to look at those conditions and have realistic expectations in a relationship. Don't allow your entitlement of what you think your life should be like to get in the way of your relationship. So Peter says relationship is complicated when we talk about money. Yes, absolutely. So if you guys ever saw my extra long video, good morning, Mr. Black. I have a long format video about the divorce rate, right? And this is one of the things that we cover is that top 3 on the divorce rate in terms of reasons is money, is finances. When you have a couple that are not on the same page about how to deal with money and how to manage their finances. This is one of the biggest reasons why people get divorced. So yes, it makes things very complicated. But I have spoken at length about that topic. So if you're interested, feel free to check out the long format. It's at the top of my channel. Yeah, that's right, Lydia. Let's go. All right, let's see. Carry on. Lack of gratitude. It's easy to overlook the effort that others put when you think you are automatically deserving of something. Let me tell you something, guys. I am dumbfounded. Like, not anymore. I guess I've gotten used to it. But some years ago, I was always confused because girls would make interesting comments about my behavior. Like today, I sort of get it, but at the time, I didn't really understand it. Now, let me explain. Whenever I would hang out with some friends, Doesn't matter if they're guys or girls or whatever, but we're in a group and there, especially if there are girls involved, what would I do? Right? I would get out the car, I would open the door for the girls. Or if we're going into a shop or a cafe, I open the doors and let the ladies go first. Was a very, very typical thing that I would do. If I can help them grab their coffee from the server and bring it to the table, I'll do that. So I was very, let's say, I was very serving to a lot of women, to a lot of girls. And they thought that was weird. They found that so strange. The other thing is, in general, I've been very good with kids for most ages, as long as the kids are not like naughty, like really mean kids. There are mean kids. I want to put that out there, but that's not what I'm talking about. Kids in general are fine. So usually I'm very, very good with kids, and they would engage with me and play and always have a really good interaction and smile and laugh. And sometimes the girls will look at me and go like, wow, you would be like an amazing husband. And I always thought it was weird because I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not totally sure where I get it from, but I've always been in an environment where I've helped women or I helped girls in one way or another, like support, either cleaning up or serving or cooking or doing the dishes or helping with kids. Like that was always a very normal thing for me. So going later into adulthood and living in Asia or whatever, apparently that wasn't normal. That was looked on as very strange because that's not a behavior that guys usually display. The men are, from what I observed and I was told, that men are the ones that are usually served, not the ones serving the women. And I'm like, to me, I said, hey, that's totally fine. That's okay. It's just not what I'm used to. But if it makes you uncomfortable, it's no problem. I could just not do it. It's not a problem. It's a non-issue. But I don't think that the reason I did it was because it was girls. It was just that it was what I was used to. And I've grown up around women mostly. So it kind of made sense to me. Now, why am I even giving this example? Oh my goodness, I almost lost my train of thought. Lack of gratitude is what we were talking about. Lack of gratitude. So what I'm saying is that for me, I'm used to doing those things and I'm used to behaving that way. And maybe if there is a girl that I'm with, let's say I'm in a relationship with a certain girl and I treat her this way for like 2 years. And then maybe one day she does something that makes me feel really uncomfortable. We don't know. We don't need to even guess. But let's say she did something that I just thought wasn't fair or wasn't appropriate, and I lose trust for her or lose my comfort around this girl. Now, in that situation, I may feel obliged to not hold the door for her, to not serve the food for her, or to not do all those little things that I would normally do, right? But the reason I would do that is because I feel that discomfort around that person. And then they're like, oh, he's behaving differently. He doesn't do these little things. But this is the point. When you take it for granted, then people start noticing when you stop doing it. You know what I mean? So I think one of the key things here is that we should notice the little things people do. Let me tell you guys, this is really, really funny. Listen carefully. This is really, really funny. I thought it was hilarious, but I loved it. So one of my partners, right? One of my close business partners that we've been working together for years. We usually travel a lot together and we go to different companies and offices, whatever. So we drive together and usually I will open the door for her. Okay. So I go to the car, I open the door for her, I close the door for her. So it was really funny because one day she was going to meet a client by herself. And then she was driving with someone else. I don't remember who it was. It was like she had to go to another city to meet one of our partners and then to go meet a client. So when she went to the other city to meet that person, they drove to the client's company. And when the guy got out of the car, she just waited in the car. She waited in the car. And the guy looks back at the car. He looks at her like, why are you still in the car? And like, he realized and he goes, oh, okay. So then he goes to the side door. He opens the door for her and then she gets out the car. And then she also didn't realize what she was doing. She told me this story. I thought it was hilarious. But she also didn't realize that she was doing it. And she told me, she's like, wow, this was so embarrassing. I got so used to you coming to open the door for me that when I was with another guy, I just sat in the car and waited for him to open the door. And I was like, oh my God. I thought that was so funny. That was so funny and so cool. But this is what I mean. Like, sometimes people take these things for granted and they don't actually realize the small things that someone else is doing for them until they spend some time with another person who doesn't display that sort of behavior. And they're like, wow, it was really nice when he did those little things for me. It's funny. But yeah, so exactly, she got used to my behavior like that. And then when she was driving with another person, she was expecting them to do that. She didn't do that when it was a woman driver. She never had that experience because usually our partners are women too. But in this one particular case, there was actually a guy that we were working with, and she just naturally just stayed in the car and waited and didn't realize that she was doing it. It was so funny. The guy even apologized and she's like, oh no, actually, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was doing that. Okay, let me catch up with the comments. I think I missed a lot of comments, guys. Give me 1 second. I have no more money for coffee with a beautiful girl. I need to get more money for a good life. Ah, I get you. Yeah, I think this is part of the issue right here, Lydia. I definitely want to highlight this comment because I think Lydia's right. So Lydia says, your girlfriend might get jealous in China. Other girls think you are showing affection. So personally, I think this is a problem. And I think that we need to get away from that sort of attitude, right? Because this is a very recessive way of thinking that just because you are in a relationship with someone, that if they do small, nice things for another person, that they are showing affection and that you should be jealous. Like, that doesn't make sense. And it just makes the world a ruder and less pleasant place. I should be able to open the door for my girlfriend just as easily and as often as I open the door for my friends or even a girl that I don't know. We just happen to be in a car together, like whatever. This should not be a deciding factor that whether or not we're in a relationship. I feel I'm comfortable with treating all the girls the same. Now, the difference is, like, obviously, I'm not going to be doing affectionate things with girls I'm not in a relationship with, of course. But I just mean in general, it's just common courtesy, Yeah, I see that. And this is part of it is a traditional thing where you say, oh, girls primarily care about financial strength of men. Part of it is traditional and part of it is genetic, is literally something brought down through the DNA in terms of scientifically speaking. And I can go ahead and get the sources for you. When a woman sees a man, her perception of how attractive he is will change based on his resources. But when a man sees a woman, his perception of how attractive she is based on how attractive she is. These studies have been done. We have the data, we have the research, and we know this is real. So I know like this is changing over time and it's changing slowly, whatever. That is true and that's great. However, traditionally speaking, and even within our DNA, this is true. We do think differently. Hey, there we go. Yes. So Alfred says, I've been brought up the same way. When I display servitude towards women here, I'm viewed as fake or trying too hard. Yeah. I also, even in one of the live streams I was in with with several co-hosts, when I was being like extra polite to the girls or very friendly to the girls, to one of the girls in particular, another girl was like, "Oh my God, why is he being like such a like a kiss ass or a try hard or all this stuff?" Thankfully, the girl that I was, giving my courtesy to, she's like, "Oh, actually, don't speak to him like that. Like, he's my friend and he's very polite and very well mannered, blah blah blah." So yeah, I appreciate it. Like she backed me up on that. But it's very true. Sometimes you can just be polite, you can just be kind and nice because that's how you are. And women will sometimes look at that as you have some sort of nefarious reasons behind it. You're trying to like hook up with her or something like that. But that's not necessarily the case, obviously. You got to really observe how a person behaves with everyone to understand if you're being treated differently. Excuse me, guys. That's interesting. So Romney says, most girls nowadays are feminists. They don't want to come off as less independent or inferior. I disagree with that, actually. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Okay. So Romney says, most girls nowadays are feminists. They don't want to come off as less independent or inferior. So I say I disagree with that. And I only disagree with the most part. I believe that many girls today are very feminist and very girl power and whatever. That's their prerogative. That's fine. But I don't believe that most girls are. I believe that the girls who do behave that way are usually girls that are living or grew up in an urban environment primarily. But in my experience, considering I've been to a lot of countries, I've been to a lot of places. I haven't been to Australia, so I don't know how it would be there, Australia, New Zealand. But everywhere I've been around the world, if I wasn't in a major city, I did not see this sort of attitude or behavior from women in general. So I think that what's happening with what Romney's comment, what's happening is that we see a loud minority and then we think that, oh my God, most women are like this now. But in reality, that's a very minimal number. That's actually a minority of women who are particularly loud. And I don't mean that physically. I mean loud as in they're very vocal in terms of social media or whatever. And so it makes it seem like, oh my God, this is how women are these days. Like, no, that's actually a very, very small number of people. It's not that many. Anything, this logic can be applied to anything. But when you go around the world and you visit any town, any city, but not a major like urban hub, you will see that most women are not all that gung-ho about girl power. They're much more dependent and softer, let's say. So I do not believe that is majority of women. No. Come on, Liang Cha. You need to kick in better. Yeah, different culture, different ways. So Alfred says, yeah, it gets weird when my politeness is confused with trying to be affectionate. And exactly. And the thing is that what ends up happening, Alfred? You end up feeling like you cannot be gentle, you cannot be kind, you cannot be courteous to women because the way that it is being received is not the way that you intend it. So the consequence is that is you may end up being less polite, less courteous, and less kind to women in general because you don't want to be looked at as a creep. I understand that 100%. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to finish up soon. I just want to let you know it is 9 a.m. So if you need to get into your office and get into work and get started, this is your warning. It is 9 a.m. So hop to it. We're going to continue for like another 10 or 15 minutes. And then we'll be done for the day. By the way, if you're enjoying this conversation, you're enjoying this live stream, please make sure hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, let's continue. If you want to add me and communicate with me directly about business or consulting, anything like that, personal development, you can also add me on WeChat. My username is the same as the channel name, Comment Live. Thank you. Let's carry on. That's so funny. I hope one day Comet will open the door for me. You know, it's funny. I'm pretty sure I did. I did for some of my followers. I'm sure of that. I met some of my followers in Shanghai once, and we went for dinner, and we went to like a couple bars and hung out. It was really fun. And so they got to meet me in real life and see like, oh, wow, he really is in real life the way that I imagine he would be based on the live stream. So that's pretty cool. Yes, Romney. So Romney says giving courtesy is misrepresented as encroaching upon her independence. That is very true. And you know what? This is what I would say to that is if I'm interacting with a girl or a woman who expresses that she's uncomfortable with me being courteous or with me being kind or behaving, let's say, gentlemanly like, then I just don't treat her that way. And chances are we are not going to be friends after that. It's not because I don't think I want to be friends with a woman who doesn't respect me being courteous. That's not the case. But the point is that I'm happy with doing that. That sort of behavior, that sort of attitude from myself actually makes me feel good. It's about me, right? So if there's a particular person who really doesn't like that behavior from me, I feel that it's going to sort of cut into my habits and it will make it so that I won't do it for others as well. So I would prefer to not spend a lot of time with that person, not really associate with them as much, and spend more time with someone who is okay with it or will appreciate it because, you know, I don't mean any harm. We don't mean any harm by doing that. So that's it. If they cannot understand that, then it's okay. I don't mind. We just don't need to associate. That's really cool, Faye. Right. I like that. Yeah. Offred says consistency is key. If you display polite behavior with most women all the time, they will see it as being genuine. Exactly. That is exactly true. And that's what I do personally. I think in general, though, I cannot say with confidence, I cannot say that I have met a girl who has said to me, oh, don't open the door for me. I can do it myself, or don't do this, or don't do that. In my experience, I've never encountered someone like that. I've heard of people like this. I've seen videos of it, stuff like that, but I've never encountered a person like that in my personal life, thankfully. So I can say like, I will just keep behaving that way. Reginald. Oh, Reginald. Love you too, bro. Thank you so much. Enjoy your work. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are mostly set for today. I think everything's covered. I caught up with the comments. Let me see. Love you too, Broman. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be basically set. I'm just going to do my little spiel here. So my name is Comet. For those who don't know, our live stream usually runs from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Monday to Friday. Random live streams pop out in the evening and in the weekend. But basically what we focus on is personal development and business consulting. So we cover topics like networking, starting and developing a business, managing staff, or the other way around, where you are staff working with managers, working on different projects and timelines and team building, this kind of stuff. But yes, this is what we basically focus on. In terms of business wise, right now, our biggest focus is our agency that we do. I got a business consulting agency. Thank you, Jasper. 谢谢你 for that, duckling. And our agency focuses actually on mainland services related to visas, work permits, starting a business, sourcing, trading, compliance, you name it. If it has to do with trade or international business, foreign staffing, anything related to this, we have services for that. So, feel free to hit me up. And if you just need somebody to consult with for your own personal development needs, you're a sort of career coach or business coach, let me know. You can message me directly. My WeChat user ID is the same as the channel name, Comet Live. And also, you can find me everywhere. So, same name everywhere. Instagram, YouTube, WeChat, TikTok, Douyin is the same name. We focus on the podcast format here on WeChat because of the restrictions about foreigners live streaming on WeChat. And then we do the video live stream over YouTube and soon Twitch. I will try to set up the Twitch for today. So from now on, we can start doing the stream on Twitch as well. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, today's the 31st. I hope you have a happy New Year's Eve. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, have a good dinner, spend some time with family, and that you get a relaxing day off tomorrow. With that said, look at every challenge and every disagreement. I'm adding that to my spiel. Every challenge and every disagreement as a learning experience. Find a way to use it to make yourself better, to learn from it. And with that, stay beautiful, stay amazing, and I will see you tomorrow if we don't drink too much wine tonight. Stay beautiful. Bye-bye. Thank you, Jasper. Good night. And good morning. Goodbye, YouTube.